Good evening. I'm Captain Ralph Woolfolk of the Atlanta Police Department, and I'm certainly honored to have been selected as your MC for this historic moment as we remember the first 8 African-American police officers in the city of Atlanta. This historic 75th year anniversary of the first 8 falls on the year of our 150th agency anniversary. The location of this event on Auburn Avenue is significant as it sits in close proximity to one of the most historic Prince Hall Masonic lodges in the country, in which a few of these great men maintained membership, along with the facilitation of great leadership at that time, including influential figures such as W.A. Scott, Charles Lincoln Harper, William Holmes Borders, John Wesley Dobbs, Benjamin Elijah Mays, and Daddy King, who advocated by meeting with Mayor William Hartsfield to hire Black officers in the community. This site is also a part of the significant area known as the Auburn Ave Beat, whereby the first 8 African-American officers were restricted to patrolling and making arrests in the African-American community. I see so many instrumental leaders present here today as we welcome our 61st mayor of this great city, the Honorable Mayor Andre Dickens, our city officials, as well as our 26th Police Chief Darren Shearbaum, that have joined us here today for this historic occasion with family and friends of the first 8 officers. We will have the Honorable Mayor Andre Dickens bring us greetings at this time, and that will be followed by a presentation of the colors by the APD Honor Guard. We will then have our nation's anthem sung by Officer Terilyn Griffin and the invocation by APD Chaplain Mark House.
Good evening. 75 years ago today, 8 African-American men took their first patrol as members of the Atlanta Police Department. Mayor William Hartsfield wanted to be reelected, and he needed the Black vote. So in exchange for promises of support from community members, Mayor Hartsfield and the City Council allowed these 8 men to be hired. We should all know their names, so I will call them. Claude Dixon was 21 years old and the youngest. Willie Elkins was the oldest recruit at 32, and he left the force within his first 2 months. Henry Hooks retired in 1980. Johnny Jones left APD by 1951. Ernest Lyons retired in 1980 also, and so did Robert McKibbins. John Sanders also left the force in his first year, and William Strickland rounded out the 8. He would later go on to also integrate the Decatur police force. These were the first 8. Their hiring came with caveats, though. They were assigned to predominantly African-American areas. They could not stop or arrest most whites. They had separate facilities operating out of the Butler Street YMCA instead of the Decatur Street headquarters. And they were not allowed to drive squad cars. But most of the community was so proud of these 8 men. There are reports that just regular citizens would join them and walk with them on their beats. And we remain proud of them too. It is never easy being the first or breaking barriers, but they did it. And none of us knows just what they endured each day. We know that they talked about what they talked about publicly and what historians have written about over this time, but we will never really know what all they faced in that time. What we do know is how far we've come to get here to this day. And what we do know is how many of our brave men and women of APD stand on the shoulders of those first 8. And we know how grateful we are that our Atlanta Police Department officers bravely answered the call every single day to protect and serve this city. And what I know is how honored I am to stand in front of each of these men and women and diverse incoming class of recruits and welcome them into Atlanta's public safety family each year. We will also and always honor the first 8, and we will continue working hard to support those who are helping make Atlanta one safe city. Thank you.
Color guard, forward, march. Left turn, march. Will everybody please stand? Present, color.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order, color. Mark time, march. Forward, march.
You may be seated. At this time, the 26th Police Chief of the City of Atlanta Police Department, Darren Shearbaum, will bring forth remarks, followed by Sergeant Tanya Austin of the Atlanta Police Department's Historical Society. We will then observe a roll call reenactment of the first 8.
As you can tell by now, I am not Chief Shearbaum. We look alike, I hear it all the time, but I'm not him. If you would, for a moment, let us pray. Dear Lord, tonight we're forever grateful for the opportunity and the ability to gather tonight under the banner of this most noble profession. We're thankful tonight for all who have joined us in this momentous occasion. And Father, according to biblical numerology, the number 8 means new beginnings. And we're grateful because in 1948 there was a new beginning in the city of Atlanta, that they hired 8 men who would walk the path of justice. Tonight we don't just celebrate the color of their skin, but we applaud the content of their character and the dedication of their sacrifice. May their service never be forgotten. May the path that they plowed never be tarnished by corruption. We pray that tonight that you would bless this occasion, that you would cause us to remember and to serve to a standard that they held. We pray tonight that you would bless, that you would be with the city. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. When the chaplain noted we had missed him on the program, I urged him to come to the podium and pray, because we could always use good prayers. So thank you, Chaplain, and thank you, Captain Woolfolk. It's my honor to welcome you all tonight as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the integration of the Atlanta Police Department and the first 8 trailblazers that proudly wore the uniform that we wear tonight. I do want to start by acknowledging some special guests that we have. 3 former chiefs of the Atlanta Police Department. If I call your name, if you will please stand up to be recognized. But first, Chief Bell, I believe you're here with us this evening. And Chief Harvard, Chief Beverly Harvard, all right. And Chief Turner, I know he may have had he sent his regards. Chief Turner's not here, but want to make sure we acknowledge him. Tell you, Chief Bell and Chief Harvard, I appreciate you all. I hope each night when you see the men and women of the Atlanta Police Department on the news, or you see their accounts in the press, you take great pride of the time that you had charge of this police department for instilling professionalism and commitment and courage in these men and women. So thank you so much for your service to our city. Mayor Dickens, thank you for being with us tonight, for always supporting the Atlanta Police Department. Councilmember Hillis, for your work on the Public Safety Committee. And then Chief Rod Smith, the Atlanta Fire Rescue, thank you for being with us tonight, and all the members of the police department. But you know what? I look out across the room and I see many, many people who have retired from this agency, who have given their entire professional life for this city, the city of Atlanta. So if you have worn the uniform of the Atlanta Police Department, or if you've been a civilian in our department, please stand right now so we can recognize you. If you are a retired member of this agency. As I was preparing to write the short remarks for this event, I took the opportunity on Saturday to travel to the Atlanta History Center up in Zone 2, where in the archives of that organization, they maintain the minutes of the Police Committee on Council. Back in the day, this committee was our OPS. This committee would determine who gets licenses for businesses. This committee would determine who got a new uniform. All the business of the police department could be seen in the pages of these large bound journals. And so I went back to the day that public comment was given in Atlanta, Georgia, on the merits of integrating our police force. And in those pages, on those small typewritten pages, you can see citizens of this city rising in opposition, and you see citizens of this city rising in support. And the clerk at the time, G.F. Brown, wrote down a quick blurb of what everyone said as they gave their position on the future of this department and whether we should begin the journey of integration and what it would look like for Atlanta. And I noticed as I read those pages, there was only one person who spoke that the clerk of the committee took the time to quote their words. And this wasn't a person in opposition, but this was a person in support. And if you look closely, who of all of the speakers caught the attention of the clerk, who actually quoted their words, and those words were, "The hour and the time was now." That the hour and the time was now for change, for advancement, and for courage. And you know who that one person was that was quoted out of all the speakers? It was Daddy King. It was the minister at that time of Ebenezer Baptist, whose words were so meaningful on that day that a person who we have lost to history as a recorder wrote down his words and said he would capture them by giving them the quotes. And you know, it is the oratory of courage that oftentimes starts us in our advancement to doing great things. And it was the oratory of courage from pulpits, from front porches and community organizations that encouraged 8 men to take the oath to move into service of this city. And the mayor's already mentioned that. These weren't easy times, Mr. Mayor. We stand tonight in celebration, but I can guarantee you those were not the experience. We had one that left just 2 months being on the force. But it was the oratory of courage by a minister and others in this city that encouraged 8 men to start forth. And when I look across this room and I see the legacy of leaders and the current leaders, that is what a great city does when we have proper leadership. And I wish now from a precinct, these 8 officers cannot walk into a normal precinct. They use the Butler Street Y. But I really hope that they look through history and tonight see their mayor, their city council, and the leaders that now fill the rank of the Atlanta Police Department that have carried on their courage that they exhibited in 1948. So men and women of the Atlanta Police Department, that is our charge. And whatever position we fill in this organization, to make sure the citizens of this city and those in other cities look at us to see a department that is a department of diversity and is a department of courage, that a minister in 1948 whose church is just a few blocks away, when he spoke those words, the hour and the time was now that we continue to carry that charge with pride. Thank you all, and thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. This is an exciting time for me. I'm happy to see everyone here, and I want to talk to you about this occasion. On Saturday, April 3rd, 1948, at 4 p.m., roll was called for 8 African-American men, and it changed this city forever. Today is the 75-year anniversary of that day when those 8 courageous men put on the Atlanta police uniform and went down Auburn Avenue to patrol. There were many who advocated for this change long before April 3rd, 1948. Today's occasion is to honor those advocates and those 8 men who said, "I'll go." Today is a day to reflect on the service and sacrifices made by all of those who spoke for and implemented change in this great city. In the face of segregation, many pressed forward to open doors that had never been opened before. These 8 men came before the 6 p.m. watch, which existed until 1969. The 6 p.m. watch was the segregated force that existed until 1969 and were housed in the Butler Street YMCA until 1953, when they were finally allowed to work from the Decatur Street headquarters. Today's occasion also is an opportunity in this year of the youth for young men on the program today to witness the outcome of courage, sacrifice, and persistence. On this historic anniversary occasion, the men and women of the Atlanta Police Department say thank you to Claude Dixon, Willie Elkins, Henry Hooks, Johnny P. Jones, Ernest Lyons, Robert McKibbins, John Sanders, and Willard Strickland. Thank you.
Six p.m. watch, attention for roll call. Officer Claude Dixon. Go ahead and read your thing. Yeah, cool. Doing good.
My name is Claude Dixon II. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia on March 18, 1926. I am a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School and attended Morehouse College from 1945 through 1948. In 1948, I made history by becoming one of the first black 8 Negro policemen to patrol the streets of Atlanta, Georgia. In 1961, I attained a bachelor's degree, law degree from Blackstone School of Chicago, Illinois. During my career with the Atlanta Police Department, I worked as a patrolman of the 6 p.m. watch, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and major, and as an interim assistant chief in 1974. I retired as a major on April 6, 1982. My son, Gary Booker, and my granddaughter, Gary Booker Parks, both serve as an Atlanta police officer.
Officer Willie Elkins.
I am Willie T. Elkins. I was born on December 14th, 1915 in Beaumont, Texas. I was a captain in the United States Army during World War II. On April 3rd, 1948, I made history as one of the first 8 Negro policemen to patrol the streets of Atlanta, Georgia. I later requested a leave of absence from the department to continue my education. I was advised that a leave of absence is against department policy. Chief Herbert T. Jenkins allowed me to resign in good standing so that I could complete my studies at Morehouse College.
Officer Henry Hooks.
I am Henry Hudson Hooks, Jr. I was born on August 23, 1916 in Macon, Georgia. After completing high school, I served in the United States Army. In 1948, I made history by becoming one of the first 8 Negro policemen to patrol the city of Atlanta. On January 5, 1961, my partner Clyde E. Muddy Jr. was the first officer to be killed on the line of duty. During my career, I worked on the 6 p.m. watch, homicide squad, and as a property manager sergeant. I retired on August 2nd, 1977.
Officer Johnny P. Jones.
I was born on March 23, 1919 in Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated from Booker T. Washington High School and attended Morehouse College. My studies were interrupted when I went to serve the United States Army during World War II. On April 3, 1948, I made history by becoming one of the first 8 Negro patrolmen to wear the Atlanta police uniform and patrol the streets of Atlanta, Georgia. I remained an Atlanta police officer until 1951 when I resigned and relocated to Savannah, Georgia. I was the last surviving member of the first 8.
Officer Ernest Lyons.
I am Ernest Howell Lyons. I was born on February 11, 1920, in Forsyth, Georgia. I am a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School. I attended Morris Brown College. Before I served in the Marine Corps as a trained sharpshooter from 1942 through 1948. In 1948, I made history by becoming one of the first 8 Negro policemen to wear the Atlanta police uniform and patrol the streets of Atlanta, Georgia. During my career, I worked the following assignments: the 6 p.m. Watch Foot Patrol, Car 8 and Car 13, detective of the Homicide Squad, Vice Squad, Community Relations Sergeant. I retired from the Atlanta Police Department on September 1st, 1980.
Officer Robert McKibbins.
I am Robert McKibbins. I was born November 23, 1923 in Atlanta, Georgia. I attended Booker T. Washington and David T. Howard High Schools. I served in the United States Army from 1943 until
1947. On April 3rd, 1948, I made history as one of the 8 Negroes policemen to wear the Atlanta police uniform and patrol the streets of Atlanta, Georgia. During my career, I worked as a detective and a sergeant in the community relations selection. I retired April 21st, 1980.
Officer John Sanders.
I am John William Sanders, Jr. I was born January 29, 1923, Atlanta, Georgia. I am the salutatorian of Booker T. Washington High School, class of 1942. I served in the United States Army from 1943 until 1947. On April 3, 1948, I made history of one of the first Negro policemen to wear the Atlanta police uniform and patrol the streets of Atlanta, Georgia. In the fall of 1948, I voluntarily resigned.
Officer Willard Strickland.
My name is Willard Lay Strickland. I was born August 9th, 1922 in Atlanta, Georgia. I attended David T. Howard High School, Laboratory High School, and Morehouse College. I served in the United States Army during World War II. On April 3rd, 1948, I made history as one of the first 8 Negro policemen to wear the Atlanta police uniform and patrol the streets of Atlanta, Georgia.
Six p.m. watch, fall out.
Outstanding job. Thank you, Sergeant Avery. Let's give our young man one more round of applause. Couldn't help but to hear quite a few Morehouse men on that list. At this time, Councilman Dustin Hillis will present a proclamation to Chief Shearbaum, followed by a presentation by our APD Honor Guard and closing remarks by Deputy Chief Spann.
Good evening, everyone. Dustin Hillis, Atlanta City Council and the Chair of the Public Safety Committee. I've been honored to be the Public Safety Chair for 4 of my 6 years on council, and the 2 years I was not, I was the Vice Chair. So it's just been an honor and glad to be here tonight to present this proclamation to APD and Chief Shearbaum from the Atlanta City Council in honor of the first 8 African-American Atlanta police officers' 75th anniversary. Whereas the city of Atlanta has a rich history of progress and change, particularly in the area of civil rights and social injustice, whereas in the late 1930s, Atlanta civic leaders, including William A. Scott, John Wesley Dobbs, Charles Lincoln Harper, Reverend Martin Luther King Sr., Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, and the NAACP organization began their efforts to hire black officers. And whereas in 1947, during Mayor William B. Hartsfield's second term, a resolution was presented by Atlanta City Alderman Ralph Huey to hire 8 African-American officers, and in December of 1947, the Atlanta Board of Aldermen voted 8-7 to hire these men. And whereas on March 8, 1948, Police Chief Herbert T. Jenkins swore in the first 8 African-American police officers, and for the next 4 weeks, they were in recruit training school. On April 3, 1948, Henry Hooks, Claude Dixon, Ernest H. Lyons, Robert McKibbins, Willie T. Elkins, Johnny P. Jones, Willard Strickland, and John Sanders had roll call at the Butler Street YMCA before they headed out to a crowd of observers as they headed toward Auburn Avenue in their new uniforms. And whereas the Butler Street YMCA remained the segregated precinct for African American officers until 1953, when they were moved into the basement of police headquarters, and whereas from 1948 until 1962, the Atlanta Police Department remained segregated, and the African American officers worked the 6 p.m. watch, and in 1962, African American officers were allowed to police without race restrictions, which meant they could now arrest a white citizen. And whereas 7 of the 8 officers served honorably in various branches of the United States military, and 4 of the 8 officers retired from the Atlanta Police Department after serving the city of Atlanta for at least 25 years. And whereas their service paved the way for many other African Americans to serve in law enforcement, and their bravery and commitment to their community will not be forgotten. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta, do hereby celebrate the 75th anniversary of the first 8 African American police officers this 3rd day of April 2023, and thank them for their enduring courage, dedication, and service to Atlanta. And it is signed by all 15 council members, our city council president, and is affixed with the city seal. Chief Shearbaum.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that presentation by the Honor Guard. That is to be placed in our headquarters building until we establish a museum, which is in the works. So thank you for that presentation, and it will represent the 75th anniversary of the first 8. Thank you so much.
I guess I wasn't paying attention to which mic. Is it this one? This one? Oh, yes. Good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be here tonight. First, I would like to make sure we acknowledge the mayor. Thank you for supporting this commemorative event. And Councilmember Hillis, thank you, wherever you may have gone. Any other elected officials here? No? Okay. I know they're here in spirit since they all signed the proclamation, but a couple of people we still want to thank: our young people, the LEAD Youth Program, the Butler Street Community Development Corporation, of course, the Mayor's Office of Constituent Services, the Atlanta Police Department Motors Unit, the Atlanta Police Department Honor Guard, Central Atlanta Progress, as well as Downtown Improvement District. Thank you all for your support with this event tonight. So I do want to say, in addition to me being honored to stand here, in my office today, there's a picture of the first 8. And the first 8 reminds me every day of my goals and where I need to look forward to progressing, as well as, just like the department progressed and moved forward to make sure that we integrated the department, I too look at that picture and am reminded that I need to put my first foot forward every day and strive for excellence, and they remind me of that. So I would like to thank you all for coming out. I see a lot of familiar faces. Please enjoy the reception that we have in the hallway, and please take note of the different exhibits that we have around the hall today. Thank you for coming out.